Welcome to your Daily Five. I'm your host, Bruce Fraser. With me is guest host Johni Scan, John Colucci. John, thank you for being here.
Great to be here, Professor.
This is a continuation of our discussion from Friday, power charting stocks at a crossroad. And so go check that out. And we have since seen the big decline on Friday, and you can put that into context. Also, TSAA SF Annual Fall Conference. It's a phenomenal program. It can either be a virtual online or you can be there in person. TSAASF.org to find out about the speakers and learn more and to attend. Now, first chart here is the Nasdaq 100, the NDX, and you can see here a vertical chart on the right, and on the left is a point and figure chart. This rally that we've been in since June has been the best rally of the year. And we can take a point and figure chart count of this daily data, and this is also daily data on the vertical, and look, we've gone right into the count range for this at 13,700, diminishing thrusts on the way up, and then a distribution count, a cause for a decline. Now, if we just take this local area here, it counts down 12,700 to 12,100, and we are right on the verge of going into that count objective area. Is it possible that we may not be beginning a new downtrend, but actually may pause somewhere in this area and build a bigger cause? Well, too early to tell, but this is interesting to consider this structure. So, and then also note here on this chart, the annotations from the top at the beginning of the year. And then also we can see that the counts were beautifully fulfilled on the redistribution area, which gave us the June low. Now here is the Nasdaq comp, and I'm going through these real quick so we can get to John Scan. But here is a intraday 10-minute data Nasdaq Composite chart. Look at this beautiful distribution structure. This count 10-minute data goes down to the area of 11,518 to 10,998. And over here you can see on this vertical chart, which this is a daily chart, that we have in this little area right here is this distribution count zone, and we've fallen very dramatically into it. 11.5 is right about here, and 11,000, 10,996 is right about here. Again, slightly higher lows from the June low. John, you notice this upward stride. What is interesting about that?
Well, certainly we were in overbought condition with a structure forming over the supply line of that up channel, and we're pulling back into the channel. So we've still got a ways to go before we're at the demand line there, and the count is just below that line too. So not too horrible. Bad day Friday, but not too horrible on just the conventional technical line drawing.
And also a tip of the hat here to our dear friend Andrew Cardwell, who we recently lost. And you can see that the RSI is moving down towards an oversold reading at this time. Okay, so John, tell us about your scan here.
Well, certainly we had a lot of activity to the downside on Friday, and an immediate question you would have is how much damage occurred in the marketplace as a result of Friday's activities. And we can really use the scan engine to help us figure that out. So that's going to be the source of our 5 stocks for today. Let's just take the group, the S&P 500, widely followed index, and let's ask the engine to find us all the stocks in the S&P 500 that have outperformed the index over 5 periods, not by any specific amount, just more than 0. And we're going to rank those by their 1 period rate of change. That gives us an immediate perspective on what happened Friday. So we're looking for stocks that slightly or even more outperform the index, and we're going to see how they did on Friday. Should we take a look at how that scan looks?
Well, and also Friday being a very negative day, it will very clearly show us in just that one day of ranking the stocks in order of strongest to weakest, or conversely weakest to strongest. Go ahead, John.
Exactly. So when we run that scan, we have 273 results out of 500. That's slightly more than half that have outperformed the index over 5 periods. So that's somewhat constructive there. And if we look at what we have in terms of the return, we have 4 or 5 stocks that actually had a positive day or even, and the rest, of course, were negative. So they were relative to prior history, they were negative. But we had the first 5 we're going to take a look at, and they're from a variety of sectors and industry groups: healthcare, communication service, 2 communication services there, energy and materials. So we've had quite a range of stocks that did outperform over 5 periods and had a positive day on Friday. Should we take a look at those stocks, Professor?
So it's interesting. So people should take the time to look at the sectors and the industry groups going down. If they do the if they go in and create this scan in their own engine, they could see all of these stocks, strongest to weakest, all 273.
Tremendous information on the results screen. Really, really important. Electronic arts, communication services, internet stocks. So jumped up on almost 10 million shares on Friday, finished with a black candle, but nonetheless gap up and would appear to be in the upper third of that true range. So interesting there, messy chart, but interesting that it jumped up. Probably some news on Friday. What are your thoughts, Professor?
Well, potentially in some type of an accumulation structure would need to show strength above this, call it the creek here, and then also very high volume. So probably news driven, which means that it may have to absorb that news, or maybe it's even climactic. The other thing that would need to happen is to see the relative strength start to show some constructiveness and get into an uptrend here. That would be my main thoughts.
Some weakness on the chart, certainly. Molina Healthcare, big jump on Friday on a reasonably high volume, certainly not by any means the highest volume on the chart, but here we have a more constructive look on relative strength. We're having some nice crosses on our moving averages. We're above the 200, 20s above the 50, 50s about to cross the 200 potentially. So a lot of good things here, wouldn't you say, Professor?
Yes, and scooter rank is very strong. So this definitely has the characteristics of leadership. Very interesting. Okay, take 2 interactive.
Yeah, this is forming a nice structure low. It upthrusted recently, came back in, but didn't print a new low. So possibly an aggressive last point of support. Moved up on good volume Friday against the market, up 1.5, and has some work to do. OBV is down, ambiguous on the moving averages. Relative strength is not quite as relatively strong as perhaps we'd like to see, but interesting that it wasn't going with the market Friday.
Possible cause building here, little sign of strength right at the end. It's pulled back in and now it's trying to turn up against a weak market. Relative strength is trying to get more constructive. It's got to get into an uptrend here, but very interesting structures, stock, cause build. So one to keep an eye on. Okay.
Absolutely.
CF Holdings.
Yeah, part of the fertilizer specialty chems area. Look at this PE of 9.71, relatively a bargain as far as that go. It does have yield, and what an interesting structure, minor sign of strength potential on Friday. So market going down, Sign of strength in CF. One of the important things this scan highlights for us is hidden pockets of strength. Isn't that an interesting Wyckoffean concept, Professor?
Well, absolutely. And of course, that's a big part of the whole Wyckoff process. So this is a deceptively powerful scan for being so simple. 2 lines of scanning. It's amazing. Look at
Don't
this
need a
relative
lot to
strength.
get a lot.
Don't need a lot to get a lot. Can we quote you?
That sounds like something Yogi Berra said. So
Yeah.
maybe I stole it.
So this may have the attributes of reaccumulation across here. And so finally, with a spring type action that comes at the end, it turns into a very positive uptrend. Look at the difference in the character of how this market's acting compared to the prior advances in the range bound condition. So this shows potentially that absorption has taken place throughout this whole area and is now getting ready to have a more important markup. And so what we'd want to see here is maybe an attempt to consolidate at the highs, very tight and narrow, and then be able to continue. And there were some other specialty chemical type companies in the scan that were floating to the top also. So that's
Mosaic,
interesting.
yeah.
Conoco Phillips.
Energy. So this kind of reminds me of the CF chart, only a little bit further back into its structure. So very interesting position here. Energy was not terrible on Friday, did one of the better performing sectors, and there were a lot of energy candidates near the top of our relative strength ROC1 scan. So the damage, not that significant in the energy complex. Your thoughts, Professor?
Well, big, beautiful uptrend. Really like this a lot. And then an attempt to come back down below the 200-day right in here. And it briefly can go below the 200, but can't live there. So it bumps back up in and pulls back and then has a more important rally, which makes me think this might be all reaccumulation for a more important advance. And so we are not at new highs yet, but it would be interesting to see whether we get some kind of a pause along here, which sets up a backup or some other type of a pullback. But the strength here against a very weak market is very encouraging. And the relative strength is now back into upward movement above its moving average. So very interesting. And there were definitely other energy stocks percolating to the top of the list. So very interesting scan. Now, John, let me ask you something in the minute or so that we have left. And that is, we've looked at the strongest stocks, but for those that might be interested in the weakest stocks, they could go to the bottom of the list and they could see the bottom stocks in the 500 for performance.
Absolutely, and you can resort and renumber in the reverse order, or you can use the word ascending after your rank by command, and that will automatically resort from the weakest to the strongest. So ton of options with the scan engine, and a very interesting 2-line scan. Shows us a little bit about what happened on the internal side.
John, thank you so much. Do check out the TSAA fall conference, which is coming up. And thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.